For those of you coming for the first time, welcome. I'm John Michael Swayze, GM at Anaba Wines. My father and I run the winery. This is our fourth edition of Anaba Fridays. Today's focus will be sustainability. And I know some of you may be joining us from Miyoko's wine and cheese pairing, which she just did, featuring Anaba's dessert wines. We'll get more into that later. But we thought sustainability would be a nice crossover. That was a nice segue into sustainability because Anaba Wines is actually a charter member of Wine Country 2.0, which is a campaign started by Miyoko's Creamery to just make the hospitality industry more knowledgeable and more sustainable in practice in wine country. And we recently joined as a charter member. For those of you who don't know about Miyoko, she specializes in vegan cheeses. She does a lot of vegan cooking. Beautiful property out in Nicasio I visited last night. Some really, really cool animals. Fred the turkey, special shout out to him. He was unique. But anyway, thank you, Miyoko, for featuring us. I watched your show. I chimed in here and there. But it's hard to chime in when the foods that you're featuring and the job that you're doing, that was really cool. So we appreciate being part of that. So, again, family-run winery. We consider all the staff to be family. So this series is really about, tasting wine, but we're trying to bring you a little more than that, introducing you to people, parts of the staff. We are having a repeat guest this time, Ian McClellan. He is, he's the best one to talk about sustainability because as it pertains to us, when we do our part, it really comes down to carbon footprint, power usage. It takes a lot of power to make wine. Ian's going to get into that. But we're doing our part to level that out by generating our own power via wind and solar. So 10 years ago, we built a wind turbine on this property. For those of you who don't know, Anaba is a made-up word, short for anabatic, which are the type of winds that are blowing around me right now. I'm a little protected, but they're blowing hard, which is, again, why I was a little late. Things were flying all over the place. We built a wind turbine, which at the time was sufficient for generating power for this small operation here. However, as some of you know, we have recently completed a new production facility and a new hospitality center. And we decided to add solar panels covering the entire top of the production facility so that we could do our best to maintain a carbon neutral footprint. So that's where sustainability comes in. As we talked about last week, the magic happens in the vineyards. I don't know if any of you have noticed the last 10, 15 years, maybe some variability in weather patterns. I'm not going to claim that I know what's going on or what's going to happen, but I think we can all agree that something is happening or changing. And for those of you who don't know, people have been making wines on this planet, I think, for 6,000 years. And the technical definition, I actually wrote this down, of sustainability is the avoidance of the depletion of natural resources in order to maintain an ecological balance. And obviously that ties in a lot to making wine because what we do is try to maintain the expression of the fruit that is given to us by the earth. So sustainability along with climate change is now a buzzword, and that's why we're talking about it now today. It's something very important to us. I'm I'm going to go ahead and invite Ian. For those of you who know him and love him from last week, and say hi again. For those of you who don't, you're in for a real treat. Ian, are you ready to join us? We'll wait a moment. I'm happy to fill time. So I've got a little something here. It's actually a Chardonnay that's coming from the vines right behind me. Jay McKay. Oh, Ian says he is ready. Ian, let's bring you in.
Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you all right. Yeah, can everyone else hear Ian? Are we all good?
Not as windy as where you are, but
You can wave. You can wave to say yes.
Oh.
No, you can wave too. All right, Joaquin gave us a thumbs up. I think that means we're good to go.
Testing. All right.
So, Ian, if you wouldn't mind, why don't you start us off by talking about the kind of power required to make wine at a wine production facility?
Sure. Well, I mean, obviously there's a lot of machinery that goes into making wine, and we obviously need to keep our barrels and our wine cold, especially during those really hot days here in California. But I don't know if any of you are familiar looking at some of your power bills. I'm sure you are, but we probably use in the winery at peak around 90 kilowatts at most. Sometimes could get up to 100 if we have literally everything running, but it almost never gets that high.
Why is that? Why do we use so much power?
Sure. So we require I don't know how much in the details you want me to get into here, but we require a 480 volt three-phase line coming in.
High levels.
Pretty high levels. All of our pumps run on three-phase 480 volt power. Our presses, we have 20 different power outlets around here. There are 30 amps, 480 volt, and that's pretty high.
Does it change the temperature ever in any of the rooms?
Sure. So all three rooms can be hot or cold. Our barrel room stays at 56 degrees year round. So to keep that stable, that obviously requires quite a bit of air conditioning. And then before bottling, we'll cold stabilize wines, which requires getting our tanks, our finished wine down to around 33 degrees. So that requires quite a bit of energy. And then during harvest, we need to keep our ferments from getting too hot or too cold, so we can heat or chill any of our ferments. So we have a 6-ton bladder press that requires quite a bit of energy to run, and steamers, plenty of pumps, you name it. There's a lot of stuff that goes on.
Yeah. A lot of power. Yeah, I hear you. I think so. That's the idea here, and you don't think about that when you think about the making of wine, but with temperature control, with pumps, with just everything that goes into it, it's an extremely resource-intensive process. And if you were to ignore the idea or the concept of sustainability altogether, something that Nyoko so focused on, this whole expression of terroir, this thing that we like to specialize in, it might not disappear, but it would change drastically, and we don't know if for the better, because the world is changing, and in order to keep this a great wine growing region, a great climate for the grapes that are here, we need to do our part in not leaving a huge carbon footprint and not making a change. And I think a lot of people in Sonoma and Napa and the other wine regions around the world are thinking the same thing. So, Ian, If if you do want to talk about some of the farming practices of the vineyard behind me, this is Anaba's. This is the only vineyard that we own. It's named the J. McKay, short for John and McKenna. My sister's name is McKenna. I think you know where the John comes from. And it is our estate Chardonnay. Many of you are familiar with it. If you're not, I'd advise you to get familiar. It happens to be in the mystery pack, which we're selling right now. Just between you and me. You didn't hear it here. Tasting quite nicely. But Ian, if you want to talk about some of the farming practices, some of the things we do here that make us sustainable.
Sure. So we've shifted over in our vineyard to full organic farming, so we don't use any non-organic pesticides or sprays or anything like that. Switched over to weeding. Never use Roundup or any of that crap. Another thing that makes our vineyard quite sustainable is with the construction of the new winery. We also installed our own wastewater reclaiming pond that we use for irrigation of our landscaping. So anything that goes down, the water that goes down the drains in our winery gets captured in a pond, and then we treat it and gets reused for landscaping. Not quite the vineyard yet. We're still pretty fresh, but the other things we do are just actually, it kind of sums it up. I'm still learning a lot about the vineyards myself. I'm sure we can get Katie in here next time to talk a little bit more about.
It's very complex.
Yeah.
We're actually in the process of becoming officially sustainable certified. It's like a 2,000-page application, not literally, but it's very long. And,
it takes a while to get one of those. So we've been sustainable and organic for some time.
Yeah. Like there's this virus that came up and kind of sidelined it, but we are going to be certified sustainable. However, in practice right now we are. I have a question. It says, is the Chardonnay considered Carneros AVA? And,
yes.
Well, Ian spoiled it, but yes.
Oh.
I'm actually going to pull out the bottle and show you. It does say Carneros on it. And yes, we are in Carneros. Carneros happens to overlap with Sonoma Coast, so sometimes it really depends on the way you make the wine and what you want people to see. But we're proud of the fact that we're in Carneros. We're proud of the terroir. We chose this site for a very specific reason. And that wind turbine, as you know from the previous episodes, and from Ian's hat, is a big part of who we are. And, it doesn't generate as much power as the solar panels because wind, while efficient, is only really efficient if you actually build a wind farm. So we did look at building another wind turbine, but they're now enormous. And
might have been kind of an eyesore.
Yeah, they're enormous, and there's a lot of permitting and rules and regulations around it. So it does make it a little bit difficult. So yeah, sustainable in practice and soon to be certified sustainable. Do we have any other questions from the group? Make a wave. That's not really a question. Did anybody come from the Miyoko's tasting? Are those anabatic winds blowing there?
Yeah, sure are.
They are. In fact,
come down that hill.
The winds here are anabatic. And what anabatic means is upward moving winds. You probably only know that if you were like a hang glider or a pilot, or if you worked at Anaba. They come from the ocean through the Petaluma Gap towards the San Pablo Bay. They keep the wind turbine moving. It's moving really fast right now. And they keep these grapes behind me cool on the long, hot summer days in Sonoma which is ideal for the type of Chardonnay that we make from this estate.
It also helps a lot with preventing fungus and mildew and things like that from growing. So we dry out those wet nights and keeping undesirables inside our clusters. That's another great aspect of it.
It comes with pros and cons. As I was setting up here, a chair blew over with all my notes and the bottle of wine. Well, I would say it comes with the territory, but I think it's more fitting to say it comes with
the terroir.
So, while you're here, we do, as you know, have this mystery 6-pack running, which is the last time we're going to do a deal like this, because it's a very, very good deal. And I said I would only reveal one wine. Well, I was only supposed to, but I got a little carried away. So I want you to know it includes the 17 Turbine Red, which hasn't even been released yet. I wasn't supposed to tell you that. So. And a 2016 Dutton Ranch Chardonnay, which is another single vineyard Chardonnay like the J. McKay, but comes from another property north of here, Dutton Ranch. It's a bit lean. It's definitely distinct. As far as better, that's up to you. I think people probably split 50-50 on which one they prefer. You lead. Let me guess. The J. McKay?
Yes, 100%. Yeah.
Ian tends to prefer wines with a little more body. Just his style. I like the Dutton Ranch. Either way, if you order the 6-pack...
They both have their places.
If you order the 6-pack, line up all three. Oh! Okay, there's 3 Chardonnays in the 6-pack. Cat's out of the bag. You can line up all 3, you can taste them all, and you can tell me which one's your favorite, which one's the most distinct. How's that view, though? I haven't been up on this patio in a while.
It's good to be back there.
It's looking good over at the other tasting room as well. So, with that, it looks like we have a question. Fantastic. Not really a question, it's a comment. They do a great job describing the wines on the tasting tour. Well, thank you for that. We do. We pride ourselves on it, and it has a lot to do with who we are, and it's in our name. So it's kind of a conversation starter, right? Because what does the name mean? Where does the word Anaba come from? Oh, well, I'm glad you asked. So it looks like we're out of questions.
I could definitely talk a little bit more about our plans for solar growth and how much solar we generate. If you have time for that.
Sounds like you'd like to. So
Sure. I'm not going to get too crazy, but it's probably one of the things I'm most proud about with the new winery that we built. We built enough solar panels up here to produce 170 kilowatts, which is more than enough to run both the winery and the tasting room on these sunny days. And we also are in the middle of researching and trying to find the best and most efficient way to get battery backup and storage, so we can kind of get completely off the grid during the night, and especially during fire seasons when we're out of power for about a week at a time. So that's my dream, and our goal is to get completely not depend at all on any type of fuels or generators or anything like that. Obviously, we're not quite there yet with battery storage. Space is obviously an issue, and just efficiency in general. But it is definitely. For those
of you who don't know, off the grid means you are actually generating and using your own power. So currently, most people who generate power sell it to PG&E or whomever, PG&E most likely, and then get it back from PG&E with credit. When you're off the grid, you have your own power grid, which is fully independently operational. And that is the ideal way to be, because then you are in full control of when the power is on or off, especially as of lately, where the power being on or off has been...
It's completely unpredictable. And it tends to happen during harvest, the time when we absolutely do not want power to go off.
Time of year to happen. Yeah.
So it's kind of the new normal. A lot of wineries are investing in generators and stuff like that. We're renting them, which we are as well. We do not want the wine to suffer. But yeah, I mean, right now with our panels finally up and running, 90% of the days we're kicking a lot of that power back to the grid and getting credits. And I don't know if there's a really cool app website that kind of shows how much we generate, how much we've saved and stuff like that, but might be running a little bit low on time here. I have to do that.
That's all right. We do have 2 questions. Someone asked if we were putting in a Tesla wall. No. However, we did just install 4 more car chargers, on top of the one that we already have. And if you have an adapter, they're 40 amp chargers, so naturally you'll be able to charge your Tesla. However, we didn't want to exclude people who don't have Teslas. So, like myself, I have an electric vehicle. It's not a Tesla, and I need to be able to get home. So that's why we opted for that. We have another question. Are there any red
They're also
wines?
free. We don't charge for them. Sorry.
Oh, yeah, we don't. It's free of charge.
Our solar panels generate them.
It's free of charge. You got to come in and taste, though. I mean, you can't just...
Right.
You go over here during quarantine and charge your car up. We got cameras. So, someone asked, are there red wines in the mystery pack? Well, let me just say this. The 3 Chardonnays are the only 3 white wines. That's all I can say. There's also a Pinot in there. Anybody excited? I'd get on there and order it. $1.99? You out of your mind? It's a really good deal. Do we have any other questions?
I see. There's a question about how many solar panels we have. There's enough to cover about over half of the roof of the winery. I'm not sure of the exact number off the top of my head, but again, it's enough for 170 kilowatts of generation at max peak.
Love it. Love the technical details. Great question. Great answer. So, with that, as we wrap things up here, Miyoko, again, we just did a special on our dessert wines, our white port, red port, and late harvest Viognier, which was really cool. A lot of people were getting really into it. I watched it and enjoyed it a lot myself. Next Friday, my father and I will be hosting a little fireside chat. Maybe not fireside if it's as hot as it was today, but we'll be hosting a chat about the 3 dessert wines that we make, how dessert wines are made, and why we make dessert wines, because there's a whole story behind that. And my dad has not done one of these yet, and he's excited to get on camera and tell you about the history of that. Looks like is there any use for geothermal at a wine?
I just typed it.
Ian.
Not at our location, no.
Yeah,
but that's a great question. I'm sure it's an option in some places.
Excellent question. Good succinct answer. So with that, I want to let you all know that we are running another promo, which is starting this evening, on the dessert wines. Again, late harvest Viognier, red port, white port. If you use the promo code SWEET, sweet like candy, you'll get 20% off on 3 bottles or more and free shipping. If you buy them now, you'll be able to taste them with my father and me next Friday and make it a little bit more interactive. They also happen to be really good, so that's an added benefit.
Did I see we're also doing will call?
What's that?
Are we also doing will call pickups? I saw a sign out there.
We are. Yeah. So for the local club members, we will be hosting I wouldn't call it a pickup party, but we're going to make it as much of a party as we can while maintaining the rules and staying safe. But we will be scheduling pickups and handing out wine at the new tasting room next week, several days. You should have received an email. Please do let us know. I think that is it. And I misspoke. I think it's 10% in free shipping on 3 bottles or more.
Yep.
If you're
10%.
in the wine club, it's 20% in free shipping. So it's really easy to get 20%. You sign up for the wine club, and then there you are. So you know what to do. Tune in next Friday, dessert wine special. You'll also get to meet the one and only John T. Mysterious John T. Papa John. Haven't seen him yet. The Silver Fox.
Yeah, I haven't seen him in a while.
Silver Fox live in person. Stories to tell. Thanks a lot, everybody. Have a great weekend.